Darius Garland's crunch time issues. That's coming up in just a sec.
Isaac Okoro's earned a lot of money this year. Just how much? We're going to talk about it.
The Ultimate Cavaliers show starts right now. What's up, guys? Mikey McNuggets here. Jason Lloyd, as always, for another episode of the Ultimate Cavaliers show. It was a kind of anticipated but weird loss to the Suns last night, Jason. Another one of these games where for half the contest, the Cavaliers offense looks immaculate. The other half of the contest, it looks pedestrian. And we're going to do our best to kind of dissect what we've seen down the stretch the last couple of games without Donovan Mitchell. From the head of that offense, one Darius Garland. Before I dive into some of the numbers, Jason, what have you seen from Darius Garland in the leading role as the Cavaliers closer, with Donovan Mitchell continuing to sit out with his left knee injury?
He just hasn't had a very good year, right? Like, it happens sometimes. Guys just struggle and don't have a great year, and that's sort of where Darius is right now. And the one thing I sort of noticed last night was Darius had a phenomenal first quarter. Everything he was putting up was going in. And then it was like Phoenix said, okay, that's enough. We're going to take him out of the game. And they did. And when you are an undersized point guard, that's what happens. When they blitz you on pick and rolls, they can force the ball out of your hands, and they're going to force someone else to make a play. And if you're playing the Cavs right now without Evan, without Max, without Donovan, of course it makes a ton of sense. Now, a lot of times teams don't really get aggressive that way defensively until the playoffs. But Phoenix turned it up the other night. Frank Vogel obviously is a pretty good defensive coach, and he dialed it up on the Cavs, and they said, nope, it's not going to be Darius. You got to find somebody else. And given all of their injuries, the Cavs struggle to find that somebody else.
Yeah, and it's a good strategy if you're trying to beat the Cavs right now. It's who outside of Darius can be a playmaker, and some of the lineups that JB has had to put together because of the limitations with injuries have frankly been kind of wild, Jason. At one point last night, they had a Craig Porter Jr. I tweeted about this, but they had Damian Jones and Jared Allen as the two bigs on the court at the same time, which should never happen in the history of the world. I don't care who you got healthy. JB, you got to find someone else to put out there alongside like Okoro, Craig Porter Jr., and Karis LeVert. It just was a weird lineup. But yeah, I was diving into some of the numbers, Jason, and I found a couple that I think have been fascinating. So let's start big picture, then we'll crunch it down to the last 8 games when he's been relied upon as the closer with Donovan out. But on the season, Darius has played 38 games where he's played in the fourth quarter. So if he didn't play because they were winning or losing, that's excluded. He actually has the best net rating of any starter on the team in the fourth quarter. +10. He's got a 114 offensive rating, a 110 defensive rating, an effective field goal percentage of 53.5, a 57.5 true shooting percentage, which is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good. Now here's the not so good part. That's all with, or for the most part, with Donovan Mitchell on the court with him, when he's not the primary closer. Since the Bulls game on February 28th, now Donovan did play in that game, but that's when he wasn't Donovan. We were all like, he must still be sick, back-to-back, but he let Darius do all the closing, and then he's missed the next 7 games. So including the Bulls game, this accounts for fourth quarters and overtimes because they've played in 3 overtime periods, 2 against Chicago that night, 1 against Minnesota a few weeks ago. In the fourth quarter of games since February 28th, Darius's offensive rating, just 97.2. That's a 17.2 drop-off from his overall fourth quarter rating. His net rating, a -3.8. That's a 6.2 drop-off. His effective field goal percentage, 34.6, 13.5 percentage points lower than his season total in the fourth quarter. His true shooting percentage, 36%, a 21.1% drop-off rate from his total season total in the fourth quarter. His turnover rate, 19. That's up 7.5% from the fourth quarter. And frankly, the scoring numbers have just been bad. I put a little bit this together, but in fourth quarter and overtimes since that day, he scored 27 total points. He's 10 of 32 from the floor. NBA.com says he took 33 shots. I went back and counted and watched each fourth quarter. I don't know where they got an extra shot. I counted 10 of 32. He's 5 of 17 from 3. He's gotten to the free throw line just twice. He's 2 of 4 from the free throw line. And his 9 turnovers during that stretch, Jason, lead the NBA in turnovers in the fourth quarter and overtime. And at the end of the day, numbers don't say everything, But I'm trying to figure out a number that defends why Darius Garland should be their lead closer right now, other than the fact they have nobody else, because he's had opportunities, and we'll show you some video clips in a sec. He just hasn't taken advantage of it. He's actually had a couple decent looks, hasn't been able to make them fall, but I have my legitimate concerns now and my legitimate, warning signs that as a primary closer late in the games, I'm not sure how you're playing through.
But he's done it before in his career.
Mm-hmm.
So why? You're the former player. Why? I just think it's a bad year. And I think
a bad year could be totally the point, Jason. And absolutely could be the point. And we hope he closes again. And he showed against Minnesota he can still do it. It's just a consistency factor. And when you have a bad shooting year, you have a bad shooting year. Kind of is what it is.
And I think the jaw plays into it, the amount of time that he missed, the weight that he missed. The fact he was on, I got ice in my mouth. The fact he was on a liquid diet.
Yeah.
And he was nowhere near, like it took a couple of weeks to get back into game shape. Could have just messed up his season. I talked about on the show today, at the very end of the show, we talk about, at least I have, the Cavs, the version of Dean Wade they were expecting to get in the playoffs last year and the version they got were nothing alike. And it was because of the shoulder injury. And he never really found a rhythm after that. And there was other extenuating circumstances. But physically, it was a shoulder injury. And I think next year we could be saying the same thing about Darius as, man, he had injuries, a broken jaw, and it really took a lot of time. And it took stamina out of him and everything else. It's just a bad year. It doesn't mean you make emotional overreactionary decisions to what Darius's future should be in Cleveland, but he hasn't had the type of year that, we expect him to have. I think that's more than reasonable to say.
I was trying to find the numbers and I couldn't. And in some of these clips that I'm going to pull up in a sec, it shows, but you weren't here the day I was talking to Jay about this. I do think the jaw injury and the fact that he's 10 pounds lighter than where he wants to be has really impacted his ability to get to the lane, draw contact, and finish. And I think that's why he's so reliant on his three-point shot right now, which, by the way, in this stretch from February 28th, he's shooting 53% from three in the first quarter of games and 16% from three in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Like, that's quite the disparity. So it's not like he can't make shots.
Right.
He just isn't making them when the team needs him to make them the most. First quarter points are awesome. You'd rather have that production in the fourth quarter. And because he's so reliant on that three-point shot right now, it's not falling, which is going to happen from time to time. He becomes not useless. That's not the right word, but he just becomes neutralized. Yeah. And one of the things Darius was great at in his all-star season and even at points of last year was getting into the paint, drawing defenders, and then the defense has to make a legit decision. What's more dangerous, a guy open in the corner or Darius in the paint with his layup package, his floater game, all that? Last season, they had no shooters, and he was still finishing over guys. And this year they have shooters, and they're making Darius try and finish. And his field goal percentage around the rim this season, his field goal percentage from two, just isn't where it needs to be the threat the Cavs need him to be late in games. And I think a lot of it plays into the fact that he's just not confident in his ability to take a hit, bounce back up like he was in the past, because he's 10 pounds lighter from not being able to eat solid food for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was. Yeah. So I do think it plays a bigger factor than people are giving credence to.
Yeah. And, we talked about it in the end of the show and into overtime. Part of the frustration with the Cavs is the fact that because of the injuries, because for a variety of reasons, they don't really have a set rotation. They don't know what their closing lineup is. And if you're in a 3-point game in the playoffs with 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to go, I'm not 100% positive Darius has to be part of that lineup. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because I wasn't thinking that way even a month ago. But, we talked about on the show today, I think my closing lineup is probably Donovan, Strus, Okoro, Dean Wade, and Jared Allen. And it doesn't include Darius or Evan Mobley right now. It's just been a weird season. And again, doesn't mean you're down on them for the future and what they mean to this franchise. It just means it's been a really weird year. They've both been beat up. They've both had a lot of injuries. And it's just sort of, when you get to the playoffs, you got to play with the pieces that are hot. You got to go with what's working for you. And right now, again, we still have a month to go. Things could change, but that's sort of how I feel about it as we sit here today.
Yeah, I still think he has to be in there just as your secondary playmaker, because what we saw Phoenix do last night to Darius in the fourth quarter, which was blitz him off the screen, they had Craig Porter Jr. as that secondary playmaker. And I love Craig Porter Jr., but in the playoffs, I just can't trust him in that situation. I'm not sure I fully trust Dean Wade or Max Strus or Okoro yet to be playmakers, and that's where Darius kind of comes in. But we'll see. We'll see. I got a couple of plays I want to show you, Jason. Just a couple of things I liked and I didn't like from the game against Minnesota. And I'm going to have to change the background real quick because the system makes us do that. But all right, if we do this, Jason, we do this. Let's bring on. This is a full possession from the end of the game against Minnesota. They're up 1. This is a terrible possession, in my opinion, by the Cavs. Darius sets a screen. He's got Jaden Daniels on him, who's a really good defender, by the way, one of the better defenders. And I'll pause it right here. There's 6 seconds on the shot clock. Darius Garland standing on the top of the key near half court. With 6 seconds on the shot clock, it's tough to get a great shot. At that point,
he just dribbled for about 10 seconds. He just dribbled in and pulled it right back out.
Well, they're going to try doing the same thing. Similar result. McDaniels plays good defense. He gets it to LeVert in the corner with 2 seconds on the shot clock. I'm going to play this again. He misses the shot. Just keep an eye here on Caris LeVert, Jason. He slices through the middle.
Yep.
He doesn't move the entire possession. This is all Darius, all ISO, pick and roll ball, try to figure something out.
Yep.
Nothing probes. I'm fine turning it back, set it up again. Let's get some more movement. But this is overall not just on Darius. No one else moved. You're asking Caris LeVert to do something that's very difficult. That was one of the big knocks with Russell Westbrook. He has the ball for so long.
Yeah.
You're going to get it with 1 second left. You don't really have an option. It is what it is. They tried defending him in the same pick and roll with Jaden McDaniels again earlier in the or later, in the fourth quarter. And McDaniels is a really, 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 really good defender. Like, keep this in mind. He's being guarded by one of the best perimeter defenders in basketball. He's 6'8" with long arms. Darius, not a bad shot. Also, I don't love that down 1 with 40 seconds with 16 on the shot clock. I just think you could get a better shot. And I'm going to show you the good in a second, which is what I want to see more from Darius. And here's the last possession of the game in regulation. Screen, you get a switch with Naz Reid here. Let me tell you, Darius should be able to get past Naz Reid anytime he wants, which he does in overtime. I'm going to highlight that in 1 sec. He goes side to side too much here, in my opinion. Not put any pressure on Reid. Bigger defender, able to block the shot. That's how it ends. So that's frustrating because you see, you get a switch on a center. Darius, there's 6 seconds left. Go to the basket, make someone else help. Kick or go for yourself. I don't love a sidestep 3 there, especially when in overtime, you get the same exact switch. It's the exact same switch here, Jason. Darius, Naz Reid, hesitation, blow by him. Great little float game. Even if you miss that shot at the end of regulation, I'll play this again. You're giving your offensive rebounders a chance to get a tip back. What Dean Wade did against Boston. Little hesitation, blows right by him.
Yep.
Step game, beautiful. And then he did it again in overtime. Another play. They set a little side pick and roll. Reid with the switch. He's no match for Darius. Like, you can do this at will, Darius. You don't have to dance side to side, get the 3. Like, I understand he's a little hesitant to get to the paint, whether it's the contact, whether it's still recovering from the strength he lost when he had to lose so much weight because he couldn't eat food. But the ability's there, Jason, and that's the frustrating part, is it's just the lack of consistency. We know he can do it. We know he's capable of doing it. He just needs to do it on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say any better than that. That was you're a wizard with some of these breakdowns. I had missed the LeVert part about him not even moving in the corner. You got to get more action on that.
Yeah, and that's not all on Darius, by the way. Like, that's, and I'll pull that play up again while you're talking, Jason. That's not all on Darius. You got to get something else happening here.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the Byron Scott days of 4 flat, where you just line everybody up on the baseline and Kyrie goes one-on-one with his defender and you just ask him to go make a play. I just think you can do better than that. I didn't like it when Byron ran it when he was here. He and I went round and around in his office the one day about it. There's more options. There's more creativity than that.
And it's not just LeVert, Dean Wade, and I believe that's Isaac standing in the other corner in the wing. I mean, you're playing 2-on-5 at that point. That's and a crucial possession of the game. You're up 1. Like, I just think there's better offensive things you can run than this.
There's also something to be said for Darius has to know where the shooters are. If he does make the pass, if he does, you gotta. That was always a big thing with LeBron, was you sort of stand and wait for the ball, and LeBron did that to a lot of guys where he's going to give it to you with 2 or 3 seconds left, and you got to go up with it. But more times than not, when he delivered it, you were open. So you were at least going to get a clean look out of it, whereas in this case, that's not even the case there. But so there is a little bit of merit to, you got to know where the shooters are positioned when you drive, but he didn't even drive there. That was just the ugly all the way around.
Last point on this, we'll talk about Isaac Okoro next, but like, does Karis LeVert look to you ready to be in shooting position? This is on Karis.
No.
Does he look like he's ready for the ball whatsoever? I'll rewind that another 10 seconds, but this kind of comes to him. I think he's in his head like, all right, Darius is going up with this. Karis not ready to shoot. There's 2 on the shot clock. Like, that's.
And he's not open.
Well, he's not open. He's not ready to shoot, however you want to do it. But overall, just not.
But that's the point I was making was a lot. If you're gonna be stationary, well, then as the ball handler, you got to try and pull a defender in, or you got to pass to the guy who's open.
Exactly.
And in that instance, he wasn't even open.
Exactly. All right. So that's some of Darius Garland's thing. He certainly has the ability to pull it back together, put it together, and be a valuable piece of the Cavs' crunch time rotation. I still think personally he needs to be in there, but as the lead guy over the last 8 games, has certainly left some things to be desired, especially considering, like for last night example, he had 21 in the first, was phenomenal in the first half, and then down the stretch when they needed him most, Phoenix was able to take him out of the game. If you like this show, make sure you tune into UCSS Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Ultimate Brown Show Monday, Friday with G. Bush. Ultimate 216 show with Earl on Thursdays, and we have officially have 2 hosts for the new Guardian show. We'll announce that tomorrow on UCSS. Jason, another guy who has stepped up big, has exceeded all of our expectations, is Isaac Okoro. He has been tremendous this season. You can make the case he's been the Cavs' most consistent player from the start of the year till today, outside of Donovan Mitchell. And if you want to say Donovan's ineligible for postseason awards, so he's ineligible for this discussion, I'll hear it. So maybe it is Isaac Okoro, Jason. We're going to talk about his future contract in a sec. But defensively, JB called him the best perimeter defender in the world yesterday. I'm not sure I'd go that far, but I don't think he's too far off. What say you?
Yeah, nobody's added more value to themselves this year than Isaac has, and that's obviously from the offensive side. But defensively, if he's not the best on-ball defender in the league, then he's in the top 10, certainly top 5, top 10. And it took a little bit longer. I think the Cavs drafted him with this idea that he was a beast defensively, and the offense would come. And it took a little bit longer than people would have liked. But it's there now. And again, he's got to do it in the playoffs. He has to shoot this way in the playoffs. But if he does that, he's going to be a very rich man come this summer.
You want to hear some numbers? According to NBA's tracking data. So you could actually look, and I'm not sure it's 100% accurate, I'll be honest. Who knows if it was technically his responsibility, his assignment or not. But according to NBA.com's tracking data, Isaac Okoro held Anthony Edwards to 2 of 10 shooting on Friday.
Wow.
0 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. In 4 games against the Bucks this season, he's held Damian Lillard to 9 for 34 and 3 of 17 from 3. Against the Magic, he held Paolo Banchero 2 for 10 from the floor. In 3 games against Scotty Barnes this season, Jason, Okoro's held Barnes to 2 for 8. He held CJ McCollum 1 for 6. Jaylen Brown, 3 games, 1 for 11 when Isaac was his primary defender. De'Aaron Fox and Jalen Williams, the frontrunner for most improved player of the year on Oklahoma City, 1 for 5 against Isaac Okoro. You find the best offensive players in the league. You look at their overall stats, look at their stats when they play the Cavs, especially when they're guarded by Isaac, night and day. It's incredible. And once again, I'm not 100% sure that's 100% accurate. I think you could kind of do a little variance, but even if it's a little bit off, and some of those guys have made a couple more shots and that's giving him credit for, to hold Dame, to hold Anthony Edwards, to hold Jaylen Brown, to well below their scoring and shooting percentages, and to be able to guard forwards, point guards, and centers, I literally lose the capability to describe how impressive that is. As a 6'4", 6'5" guy, he's not that big, which is the crazy part.
And I've never been a big Isaac guy. Like, I just haven't been impressed with him at all. Even the progress that he made last year as a three-point shooter, and he did improve last year. I still never really bought in as being a core guy. And clearly the Cavs agreed because they went out and signed Max Strus. And, we talked about a couple weeks ago, you're not asking them to do the same things, but what you are asking Isaac to do, he's doing at an elite level. He's shooting 40% from 3. And if you'd have told me before the year, Isaac Okoro is going to be shooting 40% from 3 in mid-March, I never would have believed that. Yeah. So, I mean, he's having, for what they're asking him to do, he's having a phenomenal year.
And he's attacking closeouts now. In transition, he's a monster. Like, his defense has always been good. This year it's been taken to another level. But offensively, he's not just a standstill shooter.
Right.
Like, that's what he should be doing for the most part. They don't usually use him in pick and roll as a ball handler, but he's become a decent slasher. He's become an above average finisher. And maybe most impressively, when teams leave him open, they make him pay. When they close out, he's able to attack the closeout, make other guys rotate, and he's a pretty good passer off the drive too, Jason, which has allowed guys like George Niang and Max Strus and Dean Wade in these secondary lineups to kind of make the sheer volume of threes that they've been taking and making. It's impressive. And like you said, he's going to get paid. I know you wrote an article looking at contracts for similar position players in the past in lieu of NFL free agency. What do you think the open market value for a guy like Isaac Okoro is?
I mean, what did Dylan Brooks get? You and I were talking about this before. What did Dylan get last year?
4 for $80.
I mean, I'd rather have Isaac Okoro on my team than Dylan Brooks. He's younger.
I don't disagree.
Better shooter. So I think that's the baseline, is it not?
Let me just confirm it was 4 for $80, not 5 for $80. 4 for $80, $20 million a year. Now, Houston did have a ton of cap space they had to spend last summer, which is why they gave a big contract to Van Vliet. They definitely overpaid for Brooks. No one else on the open market was giving him 4 for $80. But I think that I get a little hesitant to pay for 1 year of production. And I know the NBA, and Isaac's as young as it can be, just turned 20. He's 22, turning 23. Like, you're buying the potential based off the 1 year. But I don't know how he gets less than that. I really don't. He's a better shooter than Brooks ever was. He's not a pain in the ass head case, frankly, like Dylan Brooks is. And he's 22. And, he came in the league at 19, was one of the youngest guys in the draft. It was the weird COVID draft where nobody really knew how to scout. Like, the Timberwolves hit it out the park with Anthony Edwards, but Halliburton falls to 11. So, who knows how to truly evaluate it. But I think some team's going to have the cap space. Some team's going to need a 3-and-D wing. Okoro might be the best one available on the open market.
He is.
It's not a good free agency class to begin with, Jason.
Right.
And it's not going to shock me. Like, the Cavs are going to be in an absolute pickle if a team offers a 4-year, $80 million, 5-year, $96 million cap sheet for him, because I don't know what Kobe Altman would do in that situation.
And so, I've talked about it before. The Cavs ideally did not want to go into the tax until Mobley got his extension. That was sort of the big picture. If everything goes right, they don't have to be a tax team until Mobley. But I haven't run all the numbers, because nobody expected this out of Okoro.
No.
So this may change that calculation to where they're going to have to go into the tax earlier than expected. They can match, obviously, any offer. He'll be restricted this summer. They can match any offer that he gets. But I tend to agree with you. I think, 4 for $80 might be the baseline on this, just going off what Dylan got. And so I haven't updated this, but this is what I wrote when they didn't come to terms with Colin on an extension. I went back and counted from the 2013 to the 2017 drafts. And by my count, 31 players drafted in the top 10 in those years failed to reach extensions with the team that they were on when they were eligible. Some of them had already changed teams by that point. But 31 players taken in the top 10 in those years failed to reach an extension. Of those 31, only 6 stayed with that same team on a new deal. And Colin falls into that category of one of the 25 because obviously he didn't stay with the Cavs. Yep. He was shipped to Utah. So it's not to say Isaac can't stay here, but history and those numbers aren't updated over the last couple of years. I haven't gone back and updated them. I probably will. I'll write about it here coming up because this applies now. But overwhelming evidence says that when you get in the spot, a lot of times the guy doesn't stay with his current team. Now, Jimmy Butler stayed in Chicago. That was one easy example to pick of guys who wound up staying with their team. Was Jimmy. He didn't come to an extension with Chicago, but he wound up staying. I forget. I think he signed an offer sheet maybe, and the Bulls matched. I don't remember how it went, but he got to this point as a restricted free agent and he stayed. So there are cases of it happening. Yeah. But by and large, when you get to this point, the player ends up leaving or is traded in a sign and trade or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see what Isaac's future is here because, they signed Max Strus. I kind of read that as they signed Max because they were going to let Isaac walk. And Max was going to be the 3 here going forward. But you might have to reevaluate that now based on what Isaac's given you this year. It's a good problem to have. And Max has helped. Max hasn't shot it well, but he's really helped them in other areas. But, I don't know. I don't know what you do from here. I don't know. You trade Max this summer and lean in on Isaac and commit back to Isaac, it's kind of a strange spot to be in.
Yeah, so Max got 64 for 4, so we got 16 million a year. And I can't imagine any world, any scenario where Kobe Altman thought to himself, Isaac's going to be worth more than that in a year. Right? Like improbable thought process to have, because what Isaac had shown up to that point, frankly, was he had no trade value. Like the Cavs had him on the block last trade deadline.
Yes.
And we said, and I talked to a couple of guys, like the most they could get back for him at best was a 2nd-round pick.
Yeah. No,
like he might be a 2 first-round pick guy right now if he was available on the open market.
Now, all of this is couched by, we got a long way to go. And if Isaac's shooting craters in the postseason, none of this applies. If he has a bad playoff series and he doesn't shoot it well and teams continue to sag off him and he can't take advantage of it, then he probably goes back to what we thought he was. But if he has a good postseason, and by good, I mean shoots at 38% clip, 38% from 3. Yeah, like he's going to make a lot of money this summer. He's setting himself up well for a big payday.
And he's deserved it. He is one of the nicer guys. When you talk to the locker room, super friendly. You talk to any coach, first one in, last one out. Fits all the characteristics you want in a building block. Not as a star guy, but a guy you have to surround your stars with. So hopefully the Cavs can figure that out, and hopefully he gets paid as much as he humanly could, because I want all these guys to get paid. Yeah. The owners have to pay the luxury tax, not me.
Right.
So screw it. Like, let them all get paid. Jason, I got one more thing I want to bring up here after I tell the people that if you like the Ultimate Cavs Show, make sure you tune into the Ultimate UCS Show, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, Ultimate 216 with Earl on Thursdays, Ultimate Browns with G. Bush Monday and Friday, and the Ultimate Guardian Show is coming up here in just a few days. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate all you guys for tuning in. I have a big picture trend I noticed I want to talk about for the last 2 minutes at the end. I'm not finished with all my research, but I want to ask if you've kind of noticed this too. Okay. But before we do that, because Donovan Mitchell has now missed more than 17 games, he's missed 7 in a row with the left knee injury. He's ineligible for postseason awards. He's on a list with a bunch of other guys, including Joel Embiid, for example, who, because of the NBA's new 65-game minimum, cannot make All-NBA first, second, third team. They can't win MVP, yada, 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 yada. I understood why they put this rule in place to begin with. It makes sense from that perspective. I'm not sure this is exactly the intended consequence they wanted it to have. Are you a fan of it? And is there a better solution in your opinion?
I don't mind it. Like, the players have done this themselves, and this is where load management has gotten them. And ultimately, it's a big deal. Like, here's where and I haven't thought this all the way through, but here's where it kind of doesn't really serve its intended purpose. When you're a veteran of Donovan's stature and you've already signed your max contract, and Joel Embiid falls into this as well, there aren't really financial repercussions for not making All-NBA. You may have some clauses in your contract that you don't hit, but they're negligible compared to the max type of money that you're getting, that any player in this first, second, third team category that we're talking about is getting. Where it matters is when you're on your rookie deal and you're trying to get the bigger extension coming off the rookie deal. That's where this stuff matters. But those guys are so young in their career, load management doesn't always apply to them. So you're trying to get guys on the court more often. You're trying to motivate them to stay on the court. So I don't mind it. I just don't know that you're targeting the right demographic here, because you're really looking at the veterans more than the rookies.
Yeah. I don't know what the solution is. I spent 2 hours today trying to ponder a solution, and this is the best I came up with, and I don't even like it. So I'm going to throw it out here, Jason. I'm not sure I like it. I do think it's a little unfair if a guy misses 18 games and is one short, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if Donovan plays 60 games, but he's clearly the second best guard in basketball, like, I understand there's credence and importance to playing games, but the best players should be honored. And if they miss 2 weeks with an injury early in the season and they played the last 40 games, like, there should be specifications. So once again, I don't even love this idea. I'm not going to pitch it anywhere but here. But what if you could vote and you, like, one vote counted, but you only got a full vote, or the full 100% of the vote if you played 82 games, and your vote was counted based on how many games you played. So you only played 41 games in the season, but I think you're the MVP. My vote for you for MVP only counts as half a vote. And I know it's way too much math, and there's smart people that do analytics in the NBA directive, in the NBA department to figure that out. But that was the only thing I could think of as a fair way to still give value to the players who played, like Embiid. Now, I know he's going to miss, almost half the season. He should be an all-NBA center. He's averaging 36 and 13, right?
But he only played half the year.
Well, that's my point. But he still deserves to be in the conversation. I don't want to just give the award to the sixth best center because the best three weren't up for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even love this.
The compromise might be if you don't play in 65, you're ineligible for first and second team, and maybe you give them.
Maybe that's even better.
Maybe that's the compromise here. Is if you don't play in 65, you're ineligible for first team and second team, but maybe you can make third team. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out.
I'm just spitballing. All right, we'll figure that out. But it is a shame that Mitchell's now ineligible. He was having a fantastic season during that 18-2 stretch they had, Jason. I think one of the more underrated parts of that was he was playing like a top 5 player in the NBA for that 3-4 week stretch. Like, it wasn't just, 4 shooters. It was, Donovan was literally playing the single best basketball he had ever played in his entire career. Jared Allen was doing the same. And when Donovan transforms from star Donovan to super mega star Donovan, the ceiling of the team raises, gets higher. So I think that's kind of one of the underrated things to look at. And Jason, I was looking up some Darius Garland stuff earlier. This is what I want to pitch to you. We have 2 minutes left. We may do this tomorrow on the show, maybe later in the week. Have you noticed that NBA games are being officiated differently since the All-Star break?
No, I saw something about I think Tom Haberstroh did this, didn't he? I saw something on social media about it.
So I had texted you after the Knicks game, and remember I was like, the Cavs have shot 13 free throws in the last 2 games. Like, they're not getting to the line.
Right.
And then Knicks trend continued, and the Cavs continue not to get to the line. I was like, damn, like, refs hate the Cavs. Like, they're getting hounded. I'm at all these games now. It's physical as hell.
Yeah.
Not getting any calls.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Russillo and Bill Simmons talked about it on a podcast today. So I went and double checked. And it's not just the Cavs. It's across the whole league. Like, fouls are down league-wide right now. And I'm not sure if it's something that came out of the All-Star break where the officials were like, hey, we're giving too much calls, so we're going to swallow our whistles now, or if it's just a philosophy change. I'm not quite sure how it helps and or hurts the Cavs moving forward. But just something I've noticed, and I'm going to go look back and find the Cavs specific. They were averaging way more free throw attempts pre-All-Star break than they are post-All-Star break. It's a league-wide trend. And I'm not 100% sure if that's a good thing for the Cavs, because I think they struggled with physicality to begin with. Now, if teams are able to get away with more physical play, probably a negative on their end. I'm not sure where I've fully made my opinion yet on that, but just something to note and keep an eye on down the stretch here for Cleveland. The officials are definitely calling the game differently.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Tom Haberstroh wrote about this. If anyone's interested, go look up. I think he's got a Substack where he was mentioning this and writing about it. That's where it first started gaining traction.
Yeah, it's definitely worth. And like I said, I know I pointed it out. So when other people league-wide see it, I know it's not just a Cleveland thing. Then I want to do a little more investigation. Like I said, Bill Simmons and Ryan Russillo talked about it on their podcast too. So just wanted to point that out. Any final thoughts here, Jason?
Running out of time. Got to get these guys back. Got to get Evan Mobley back and healthy. Got to get Donovan back and healthy. Donovan will be here before Evan. Donovan, hopefully within the next week or so. Mobley probably still a few weeks out.
And they play the Pelicans tomorrow night, winners of 4 straight, one of the hottest teams in the NBA. It starts a road trip for the Cavs that hopefully we see a little more consistent play with them down the stretch. That's going to do it here for the Ultimate Cavs Show. For Jason Lloyd, I'm Mikey McNuggets. We'll see y'all tomorrow on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Peace.